Acts of the Magisterium is very necessary, part of the curriculum. And I think it's so necessary that I believe that it should be also taught to the deacons. That is, for your last year of seminary, there should be also Acts of the Magisterium. In a different way, in the sense that you need to know all the major encyclicals of the popes, because they are our rule of action. Archbishop Lefebvre said our main problem is that we have two magisteriums that are facing now each other. And so you need to have good knowledge of both opposite magisteria. The magisterium of the new church, of the new conciliar church. So for instance, you need to be acquainted to the 16 decrees of Vatican II. You need to know them well. So that, when some bishop of, Pia Unio shows up and upholds Lumen Gentium, then you know what you are up against. Or he upholds Dignitatis Humanae, he says it's reconcilable but with difficulty with tradition. You know what it's all about. If you don't know what Dignitatis Humanae is all about, and if you don't know how grave it is, and how many hundreds of millions of souls it has led to hell, then you cannot jump, when this type of incidents happen, and will happen again probably. But this year, what you have to know very well is the good encyclicals of the popes. Now, with your confreres in Philippines, we've studied already Mirari Vos, so it's going to be on the internet. I hope Father Joe will have you watch it. No, it's all recorded, so I recorded the class there, so I don't need to give you that class. But Humanum Genus is also a very interesting encyclical of Leo XIII, written in 1884. And what we clearly see today is that Freemasonry has been so victorious that it barely hides today. They are barely hiding. They even have movies just about Freemasonry, like the National Treasure.
Oh yes.
Yeah. So I was flabbergasted, when I saw that thing. Amazing that how much they explicitly say we are the good guys and we are the force of good throughout history, and here is a proof, and blah 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 blah, and all their kid stories about the Templars and everything, and so on and so forth. And then it goes all the way down to the local level. Julie Cordova, the lady who is allow us to use her property in the Philippines, she was a Rotarian at some stage, innocently a Rotarian. And then she found out that this is the anti-chamber of Freemasonry, and the mayor and all the main businessmen of her city of Tanawam in Batangas, south of Manila, they're all Freemasons. And then you find out, in the Philippines, Freemasonry it's written on the face of the government. They're all Freemasons. When the Americans came, there was already the Spanish Freemasonry. But then there was a complete imprint of Freemasonry which was put there. And they are it's like the Mexican type of Freemasons. They are very devout to Our Lady, but they are still Freemasons. And their aim is to destroy the kingship of our Jesus Christ, to destroy His kingdom. And then the Freemasons in the Philippines also set up national churches, national schismatic churches, like the Iglesia ni Cristo, the Agripai, and all that. All those things are tainted with Freemasonry, and because the devil's aim is to create the Great Babylon. The Great Babylon is sitting on a dragon. She springs forth from the workings of the dragon. The dragon has got 7 heads. Those heads are kingdoms, presidents, powers. The end product is the Great Babylon, which is a city of man, for man, by man, with the laws that man chooses for himself, with a code that man chooses for himself. Man is the measure of all things. And man is the author of all different religions. So, we also have the worship of man, says Paul VI, who Padre Pio said was a Mason. and he entrusted Father Villa to expose Freemasonry. And Father Villa accomplished his mission very well. He was able to give us a list of Freemasons in the 1970s, out of which those 3 people involved into the revealing of this list were executed. But they gave us a clear list. Now, we don't have a list of the Freemasons in the Vatican right now, but you got Masonic symbols and signs of Freemasonry everywhere over the Vatican. And Freemasonry is the author of all these revolutions that took place, since the 18th century onwards. And then when Charles de Gaulle came back to France in 1944, I come back to give France back to Freemasonry and Freemasonry back to France. So Masonry is the devil has his foot soldiers. He has his organized body of people. Anyone who falls into sin, into mortal sin, becomes owned by the devil. But some people want to go further, and they want to belong entirely to the devil and to be of his service. Now, they enter into his service in different ways. That's why Humanum Genus differs from the other encyclicals about Freemasonry. It's a very important encyclical because it is the last in a series, and there are no encyclicals on Freemasonry after him. Probably if Pius X had reigned longer, he would have made an encyclical on Freemasonry. Unfortunately, he didn't have the time. But after him, after Leo XIII, there is no encyclical about Freemasonry. And that's something which is really missing in the more recent good popes. And Humanum Genus comes after a long series of encyclicals against Freemasonry. Freemasonry was condemned by the popes 10 years after Freemasonry was established in 1717. 17 is a crucial number in history. In 17, you always have some special evils breaking out. So 1517, what is it? Martin Luther, yes. 1617, I don't know exactly, probably some turning point or the beginning of the 30 Years' War. I'm not quite sure. Then 1717, that's the foundation of Freemasonry. 1817, nothing so special happens. But 1917, that's the beginning of communism. And Our Lady of Fatima. And the power has been given to the devil to overcome. It's in the Apocalypse. Power has been granted to him to overcome the world. That is, the Apocalypse is very clear. Those who are not signed with the sign of the cross, those Christians who are lukewarm and who don't carry their cross, are to be swept away by the dragon. They are to be overcome. And it's a reenactment of the book of Job. That is, Freemasonry has stripped the Church, the Catholic Church, from the help of the civil power. That is the work of the French Revolution and the revolutions that followed. Then once this is done, Freemasonry is not over, then it needs to infect the Church from inside with the help of the communists and liberalism. And so it enters inside the body. So the misery of Job is in two phases, because when the devil takes away the exterior help of Job, he's not happy. So he's asking God for seconds. He says, if you take away his goods, his external help, nothing compares to the health that a man enjoys. And so then the second stage happens, which is a penetration inside of the Church. Now, this is the last letter against Freemasonry by Pope Leo XIII, who himself didn't see clearly in everything, but at least he saw clearly on Freemasonry. What is very interesting what is very useful for us in this encyclical, he explains the different shades of Freemasonry, and that To be a Freemason, you don't need to be a hater of Jesus Christ. You don't need to be a Satanist at first. It's not that simple. If it were that simple, they would be so easily exposed. And the principle of Freemasonry is the principle of indifferentism in matters of religion or religious liberty, or that is man who chooses with the mind of man, which is a criteria of truth and good and bad. Man is a measure of all things. That is of itself the principle of Freemasonry. Then they allow you to retain whatever else belief system you have, but you will retain it because it's your own belief system, because it's something that you have chosen yourself. So that city, that great Babylon, is the city of the self-will of man, the independence of man from an external objective order or an external objective revelation of our Lord Jesus Christ. That is what they don't want to hear. That God has imposed upon the mind of man a natural order and a supernatural order, supernatural revealed order. What the essence of Freemasonry is this breaking of those bonds of reality on the mind of man. Yes?
Father, would you classify indifferentism in a way? Because I've heard much of the faithful would say that what does religion has to do with me? Is that a part of indifferentism? What would I benefit from religion?
Yes, if religion is beneficial to me personally, then I'll believe in something. But otherwise, that's utilitarianism. That is, religion is some mental sedative. It makes me happy. If it works, it's fine. Mm-hmm. Or agnosticism. There might be a God, or if God works for you, it's nice. I'm happy to see that you are believing in God. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm not using it right now. I don't feel the need for God as of now. But I understand that somebody could use, a belief system that gives him guidelines and ethics and feel-goodery and consolations. So, but the principle of Freemasonry is that it is man who chooses, man who creates, man is the author of religion. It's not God who is the author of religion, or the order of nature that points towards God. It is simply man who likes to have a God. It's Schopenhauer. Schopenhauer said those beautiful cathedrals in Germany, those are nice and beautiful cathedrals, and they are not celebrations of God. They are celebrations, they are worship of the religious instinct of man. So that's why, when the Cardinal Marty in the Archdiocese of Paris, he wanted to tear down the main altar of Notre Dame in Paris. Beautiful main altar of 13th century. And the French government said, you won't do it. Because this church belongs to the civil government in the first place. And secondly, those are cultural monuments. So we will not allow you to tear it down. Just like in the Philippines, they are using the historical churches of the Philippines to boost tourism. Those are cultural assets. So Freemasons don't mind to maintain, just like the communists did in Russia and Eastern countries. In Prague, the communists didn't touch the churches. And they kept those things as cultural treasures, remnants of feudal age, but interesting cultural heritage. So there is, I think the Masons I met in India were very benevolent Freemasons, showing sympathy to me and even to the Catholic Church. So we must go beyond the notion that Freemasonry is just a bunch of Satanists who want every morning to level down the church. It's not the case. It's more subtle than that. Of course, the end product is the new Babylon. It's a total rejection of our Jesus Christ. And also the main weapon of Freemasonry is something excellent. It's friendship. Just like our main weapon is charity, In your rules, I hope, in a cozy rule I gave you, charity is a seed. It comes first. Okay? So if one of you is sick, if what's your name? Kiran. If Kiran is sick, stays in his room, cannot make it to the breakfast table, and you come to his room and you bring breakfast to his room. Okay? Now, charity is our, the engine by which we work. I mean, silence is also very important. You should keep as much silence as you can until recreation time. But charity is... so the Freemason, the devil is going to copy that, because he knows this is what works.
Well,
Yeah.
There's another scheme that of Freemason under the guise of philanthropy. That
Yes.
That
They use friendship,
Yeah.
the love.
They kind of give those medical missions all over the world, but they inject those what do you call this?
They tie you up. That is, in Cebu, I could run a medical mission because there's a big village in Labangon, in South Cebu, and everything. And I was proposed, substantial financial help by the Rotary Club. Now they're going to tell you, we're going to give you this money just to fulfill this charitable purpose. But then I'm tied to them. I've got to express my gratitude, and they are taking the credit, and they're going to put, Rotary Club of this place or that place, and then that's how they move forward. Just like in Islam, you have Muslim charities.
But the vaccines that they're propagating, Father, under the guise of philanthropy, has side effects that causes severe that destroy the immune system. This is under the...
Well, some of these programs.
Yeah.
But, I was offered cash by the Rotary Club.
But
That is, they are not going necessarily to try to poison the population and everything. What you have to understand is that Freemasonry is not necessarily a bunch of guys who are out there to kill everybody, or to be a Satan worshipper, or to poison the population. What you have to understand is the main principle of Freemasonry is that every man is free to have his own belief system. That's which is an extension of the principle of Protestantism, of this free examination of Scripture. Now, you're going to have different shades of Freemasonry, like the French ones, Danton and Robespierre. They were out there, to kill Catholics, to massacre the priests, to torture them or whatever. So they are a breed of Freemasonry which is very different from the benevolent Freemasonry that I met, in India or in Asia, in some of those places. Those are the American Freemasonry, which is because once they have conquered and they established their own liberal democracy, which is a creature of Freemasonry, they don't need to use violent means. They can show their teeth sometimes when somebody goes too far into contradicting or negating their principles. We saw that in the 90s when Pat Buchanan won the primaries in New Hampshire. Then immediately the dragon was disturbed in its siesta, and they had to finish off Buchanan. And so they called him a Nazi, and all the medias immediately jumped on him and they finished him off. Because the devil was disturbed into its siesta. Okay? But otherwise, when they are in control of the situation, they present a very loving, a very affectionate, image, very benevolent image. So we need to. That's why Humanum Genus is interesting, because it goes further than the other encyclicals. It maintains the principle that the goal of Freemasonry is to destroy the kingdom of our Jesus Christ and Catholic Church. Okay, but we also need to know the subtleties and then their modus operandi. So, and that's the only encyclical that you study in your program on the Acts of the Magisterium. I recommend that you read also on your own the other encyclicals of the previous popes, of the popes before, on Freemasonry, and so that you understand that this is a Catholic teaching. And also, when a worrying sign in the crisis of the society is that nothing is published against Freemasonry anymore. in a new Angelus, in a rebranding. As if Freemasons had disappeared, or they admit defeat, or they all go on vacation. When even in the Vatican they are showing signs of their presence, visible signs, tangible signs, like the new cross of Pope Francis, or this gay statue of St. Michael in the gardens of the Vatican, or the inaugural Mass of Pope Francis, which is like this canteen of all religions. That's Freemasonry. And Freemason from what he says, essentially. Now, you have the useful idiots who are going to speak like Freemasons, not being Masons themselves. But you got the other ones, who are the deliberate Muslims and Masons, and who apply a clear policy. Now, among the cardinals, most likely Cardinal Bertone, and Paolin, what's his name, whatever his name, his successor, are Freemasons. Like Cardinal Wele, all those cardinals at the main levels of control are most likely to be Freemasons. One of the conspiracy theories is that Pope Benedict's handshake to Bishop Fellay is a Masonic handshake. Doesn't mean that Bishop Fellay is a Freemason, but it's suspiciously, conspicuously a Masonic sign. Okay? Maybe it was showing that he owns Bishop Fellay or whatever, but in the XSPX you have one or two priests who are showing a behavior which is a Masonic behavior, in the sense that they don't say the Mass for 9 months over. So one of those was caught not saying the Mass for 9 months over, not showing up in the chapel ever, and having connections and everything. So those are signs of a Masonic behavior, but there are not, probably not that many in the XSP. But the possibility is always there that because the devil has some work to do from inside. So something that happens to the Catholic Church can happen to something which is much lesser. In Latin we say qui potest maius, potest minus. Qui potest, I read of Latin, maius, potest, minus. So he who can do more can do less. So the devil who can infect the Catholic Church with Vatican II can also infect the XSPX with the spirit of Vatican II and the approval of Vatican II. And the devil who can infiltrate the Catholic Church, as clearly stated and approved by, recognized by Pius IX in the documents of the Alta Vendita. You know about these documents? No. So, the devil who can infiltrate the Catholic Church with Freemasonry can also corrupt and penetrate the Society of St. Pius X. Just like later on, they can send us some priests liable to become Freemasons. Or guys who are already Freemasons in order to infiltrate us. That's possible. But what Freemasonry does very often, it picks a liberal priest and makes him a Mason. Because they have specific lodges that co-opt the clerics in the ranks of Freemasonry by not asking them to deny the faith in any way whatsoever. Just remember, be a member of a club to make things better in the church by having the church espousing liberal ideas. And usually it doesn't go any further. Famous case is Cardinal Liénard. He is coming from a renowned liberal family of Lille. So, and these documents of the Alta Vendita this is an Italian lodge, and the papers were found by the police of the Pontifical States, and they were handed over to Pius IX. These documents state, we will eventually take over your organization from inside. There is no need for us to shed any blood like in the French Revolution or whatever. We will come from inside. There are plenty of liberal priests who are wide open to us. Most of the clerics who become Freemasons were liberal in the first place. And they can be gradually pushed into the ranks of Freemasonry. But they are a chosen type. They are a specific type of clerics. Now, Pius IX recognized the veracity and the truthfulness of these documents. That's one of the reasons why, when Our Lady in La Salette said, Rome will lose the faith and become the see of the Antichrist, he did not reject that message. And he complied immediately to the request of Our Lady of La Salette, that valley there converted. But the same thing was opposed by the local French bishop. Because he knew that, even at this time, it was obvious that the bishops were nominated by the Masonic governments throughout Europe. And so it was a matter of time before Freemasonry would place its elements further into the body of the leadership of the Catholic Church. So Freemasonry is something which we must not underestimate. You have to study liberalism, modernism, all those isms, but communism. But you must be very well acquainted to Freemasonry and know about the existence of Freemasonry. Now, there is what you can know also. You got the Masonic mausolea, in Washington, and all these symbols and everything. It's good for you to also study these things, because these are the actual rulers of the city, of the polity here in the United States and in many other countries. And they explain to you what they want. Why do they choose a pyramid as their symbol? Anybody knows? What was a pyramid built for by the pharaohs?
To point up to
heaven.
heavens.
Well, it's like a church steeple, What's the idea? When the pharaoh dies, he climbs the pyramid. He reaches the top golden summit. So the summit of the pyramid was gold-plated. And there, from man that he was, he becomes God. That's why in the Novus Ordo, they emphasize the Paschal mystery. That is, a man becomes God. Christ becomes God by himself. That's their understanding of the Paschal mystery. And that's why we reject them. Because that thing is blasphemy. So they have twisted the mystery of redemption for their own ends. And they have substituted the centrality of Jesus crucified to the centrality of Jesus risen for a specific purpose. Because for them, it expresses the self-divinization of man. It's a city which is man-centered, where man worships himself. Now it's interesting to study their symbols. Why is the Statue of Liberty carrying a light? Is it just because of the Enlightenment? Why? How do you translate carrying the light in Latin? Anybody knows? Lucifer, yes. On the Bastille Square in Paris, there is a naked angel there with wings, and he carries a light. Okay, that's Lou over there on top of the column. So they have their symbols, very explicit Masonic symbols, and then it's interesting. I mean, you gotta know, you gotta look around those things. and then these are confirmations of the truthfulness of what the popes are telling us about Freemasonry. All right. So we'll start the encyclical next time. But, so it's very important. Father Joe will show you the door. If you don't believe in the seriousness of that phenomena of Freemasonry, well, you go somewhere else. You find yourself a nice, cozy seminary elsewhere. You are here in this cardboard seminary, because it's not yet owned by them. So that's I guarantee you, if you don't take Freemasonry seriously, Father Joey will show you the door.